They told me freedom had a price. They said every chain must be broken with blood. I believed them because I had never known a day without iron on my wrists. The high circle stood above me in white stone robes. Their faces were calm like winter sky. Their voices were cold like river water. In the dark, to set me free, they forced me to sacrifice the barren orc. That was the decree. That was the law. She was brought before me in chains heavier than mine. Her skin was deep green, scarred by old battles. Her hair was black and braided with bone beads. She did not bow, she did not beg. Her eyes held mine and did not break. They called her barren, as if that word erased her name, as if it erased her life among her people. A barren woman was seen as a cursed among mine. She was seen as a beast, so they chose her an offering no one would defend. They placed a blade in my hand. Silver edge, bright as frost, the crowd gathered in the great arena. Human nobles filled the high seats, orc prisoners filled the cages below. All of them watched, all of them waited. I was a slave, raised to fight. My victories had filled their coffers, my obedience had earned their favor. This was my final trial: kill her and walk free, refuse and die beside her. The high priest lifted his staff. He asked if I accepted the right. My throat felt dry. Freedom stood so close I could taste it. A life without chains, a life without orders, a life where I chose my own path. I looked at the orc woman. She stood tall, despite the bruises on her face, despite the blood at the corner of her mouth. She was strong, but she was tired. I stepped closer. The blade trembled in my hand. Not from fear of her, but from fear of myself. I had killed before many times. Men who tried to stab me, beasts thrown into the pit, other slaves who begged for mercy. Each death had carved something from me. Now they asked for one more piece. I reached for her arm to steady her before the strike. My fingers brushed her skin. That was when I saw it. A mark burned into her flesh, faded but clear, a crescent wrapped around a broken chain. My breath caught. I knew that mark. I had seen it once before. Long ago, in a dark cell beneath the Capitol, a woman had pressed her hand against the bars of my cage. She had whispered that no chain lasts forever. She had shown me the same crescent and broken chain carved into her arm. She was part of a hidden network. Humans and orcs who worked in secret. They freed slaves when they could. They burned records. They poisoned cruel masters. They vanished like smoke. I had not seen her again. I had thought she was caught or dead. The orc woman before me watched my face. Something changed in her eyes, a flicker of recognition, very small, very quick, but it was there. She knew that. I knew. The priest grew impatient. He told me to finish it. The crowd began to chant freedom, freedom, freedom. The word pounded in my skull. The blade felt heavier than iron. If I killed her, I would walk out of this arena a free man, but I would walk out alone, and she would die, and the mark would die with her. I leaned closer, as if to whisper a final prayer. Instead, I spoke so only she could hear. Who leads now? Her lips barely moved. No one leads. We are many. The chains are weak. My heart slammed against my ribs. This was not just a woman. This was a door to something larger than my own freedom. The priest slammed his staff against the stone. He ordered the guards to hold her still. They grabbed her shoulders. She did not fight. She kept her eyes on me. There was no plea in them, only question. What kind of man are you? I lowered the blade. The arena gasped. The priest shouted. I turned toward him. You promised me freedom. He nodded. Then hear me. I choose it. The blade flashed, not toward her, but toward the nearest guard. Steel met flesh. Blood sprayed across the sand. The crowd screamed. Chaos erupted. The orc woman moved the moment the guard fell. She drove her shoulder into the second guard. He stumbled. She seized his sword. The cages below rattled as orc prisoners roared. Some forced the bars open. Others tore loose broken hinges. The hidden network had not been idle. This sacrifice had been bait, and now the trap snapped shut. I fought beside her, back to back, our movements quick. Uncertain, we did not speak. We did not need 2 more guards poured into the arena. Arrows rained from above. Some struck stone, some struck flesh. The high circle fled from their seats, white robes stained with fear. The priest tried to escape through a side gate. I chased him. The orc woman covered me. Her blade cut down anyone who came near. I reached the priest at the gate. He stumbled and fell. His staff clattered away. He begged now, his calm voice gone. He promised gold, he promised rank, he promised true freedom. I looked at the mark on my own wrist, a scar where a shackle had burned me years ago. Freedom was never given, it was taken. I struck once clean and final. When I turned back, the arena was no longer an arena, it was a battlefield. Orcs and humans fought side by side against the guards. Not all humans were cruel, not all orcs were savage. Lines drawn by the high circle, blurred in blood and dust. The gates to the outer streets burst open. More fighters rushed in, bearing the crescent and broken chain. The rebellion had been waiting for a spark. They had chosen me as that spark. Not because I was strong, but because I was visible. A champion slave killing a barren orc would have pleased the crowd. A champion slave defying. The circles shattered their illusion. The fight spread beyond the arena, into the marble halls, into the noble quarter. Fires rose against the darkening sky. I stayed close to the orc woman. At one corner, we paused to catch breath. "What is your name?" I asked. She studied me for a moment. "Surah." She said, "You could have walked away, so could you," I replied. She gave a faint smile. "They called me barren, as if that made my life worth less. I have no children, but I have a cause. That is enough." We moved again through corridors I had only seen from below. Statues toppled, chains were broken from walls, cells were opened. Some prisoners were too weak to stand. We carried them. By dawn, the high circle was finished. Some dead, some captured, some fled into exile. The city woke to a different world. Smoke drifted over rooftops. The arena gates lay shattered. Slaves walked free into the streets, unsure where to go. Freedom is heavy when you first hold it. There were no cheers now, no chanting, only quiet. Surah stood beside me on the arena floor where it had begun. The sand was dark with dried blood. "You are free," she said. The words sounded different from her mouth. Not a reward, not a bargain, a truth. I looked at the open gates. I could leave, disappear into distant lands, live only for myself. But I saw the mark on her arm. I thought of the woman in the cell years ago, of whispered promises, of chains that never last. Freedom alone felt small. Freedom shared felt vast. "Where will you go?" I asked. She glanced toward the city we rebuild. We make laws that do not demand blood for comfort. We teach our children that barren is not a curse, and slave is not a destiny. I nodded. "Then I will stay." She studied me again, measuring. Then she extended her arm. The crescent and broken chain caught the rising sun. "Will you bear it?" she asked. I did not hesitate. "Yes." Later that day, beneath the broken statue of the high priest, a healer burned the mark into my skin. The pain was sharp and clean when it was done. I looked at the symbol. It was more than rebellion. It was memory. It was promise. To set me free, they forced me to sacrifice the barren orc. They thought her life was the cheapest in the arena. They were wrong. In trying to break one chain, they shattered them all, and in the mark on her arm, I found not just my freedom, but my purpose.